Welcome to this week's edition of Indigo Living's Leading Women series. This is actually one of my favorite jobs because I get to interview leading women across the region, breaking glass ceilings, boundaries, and so much more. But today, I'm going to tell you in advance, get your pens and papers and notebooks out because there's a lot to learn on this segment. Meet my friend, Veena. I'm telling you, the first day I met her, I was blown away by not only her experience, knowledge, but what she's doing in the startup space. And she's ultimately the queen of mentorship. Please welcome Veena. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rosamond. Thank you for having me here.
Where do I start with your CV? Age of 12, your first business, which was teaching dance classes.
That's right.
And today, not only are you co-chair of Thai Dubai and Thai Women, but you're also director of
Ekagrata, which is a private equity group in Canada.
Yes. So not only about the time difference, but you have multiple hats. But you are the queen of mentorship. Every time I just say your name, the first thing they say is, she's a wealth of knowledge. I just need to sit with her for half an hour. She's going to take my company public, help raise funds. How did you get into this role?
Actually, I think the journey, like you said, started when I was 12 years old because there was a purpose behind that madness, right? I grew up in a very modest, conservative family, and I started learning dance when I was just 4 years old. And by the time I was 12, my teacher was using me to teach dance to the junior students. So I said, hey, hold on, this is a great business model for myself, because I was crazy about music, and in those days we used to get these cassettes, the music cassettes, and I had a limit to buy only 2 of them in a month. So I said, if I start teaching dance, then I can buy, multiple cassettes to keep my music passion going. And my parents did not buy me English music cassettes. They only bought either the regional language, the Kannada songs, or the Bollywood music. So they would not buy English music. Now, how do I get hold of English cassettes, right? So I needed my own money. And so I started teaching dance just for that purpose. And I loved buying earrings even at that age. So this money came in handy for all these multiple purposes, self-purposes, and I used it to the maximum. So I think that's where the journey started.
But at the age of 12, did you have entrepreneurial parents?
Nothing.
What was that moment where you're like, I can actually charge people for my dance?
No, so zero entrepreneurial
Because I'll tell you, most 12-year-olds would probably just do it because they love dance, right? And not charge. But you were like, I'm putting a business hat on.
Yeah, I love dance. Even now, the one thing I can do all night is dance.
Okay.
And that too without even drinking. I can really, dance is my passion. It has been forever. And when I realized that I was being an assistant teacher to my teacher, I think that's when the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
Because then people started asking me if I can train their daughter for maybe she was having an event in school. So can you train them? And yes, I was just 12. But then by then I was teaching dance to 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. So I was very comfortable with that age difference, with that interaction with a much older person. And so many of them would slip a 10 rupee note into my hand or a 20 rupee note, because I was really small. Then I said, even if I charge 5 rupees or 10 rupees for an hour or 2 hours of dancing, people are okay to pay me. And that's how I started.
I love that.
Many times if somebody came and said, I can't pay the fees today, I'd be like, no problem, because I actually didn't have to run a house with it. So it was very cool. But my dad, who was in the same job for 38 years, he's never done any business. And my mom, of course, is a traditional housewife, though she was more well-read than my dad. I came from a family that didn't know the B of business. So no, I did not start with anything to do with a business-mindedness, but it was really to solve a purpose. So,
well, I will say, I'm just going to pull out the first takeaway from your early childhood, and that is knowing your value.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of one of the first points of your young childhood, is that if you're teaching people of all ages, you've mastered your skill set, knowing your value, you can actually put a price point on it.
Yes, and also I think what it did is it removed all inhibitions. So today I can actually talk to an ant, to a bird, to anyone, and I have no inhibitions about judging, right? I don't care what they think about me. I have no inhibitions. And that I learned at that age. And it made a big difference, because at the end of the day, you are inhibited by your own imagination of what others think of you.
Yeah.
And that I had lost at a very young age. And that's what helped me go on to, presenting on TV. I worked for so many years on TV. I worked as a teacher, a TV personality, so many different things, because I had no inhibitions. And that, I think, is a valuable lesson I learned at that age. One is, of course, I can be independent and earn my own money.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the fees that my parents paid, I was able to do a lot of things for myself. And then, of course, the fact that I could be interacting with any age group of people. And that was a fabulous lesson to learn at that age. So yeah, it helped.
I love that. So this is the younger years of Veena. We're going to move on to 45 stores across India.
That's right.
Retail stores. You started a furniture decoration business.
Yes. So actually, again, all because of accidentally happened, everything that's happened in my life actually in the business world. Because I moved back. We were living in France. We moved back to Bombay, and I was going to open my own dance school even at that point. And literally was in a fabric store looking for curtains for my dance studio. And I bumped into an English lady. In India, they drape the fabric to show you how it looks.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it, and I walked through it to go to another fabric, and I actually bumped into this English lady who's standing on the other side. And when I looked at her, she looked red like a lobster. And I was like, oh my God, did I do that to you? I'm so sorry. And she looked down, she's a 6-footer. She looked down and said, oh my God, you speak English. And that's exactly how we started. And she said she was red because she'd been crying, because she said, I'm trying to start my business in the UK, and I'm trying to explain to this embroidery person what a ladybird means. So can you help me explain it to him? So there was this karigar standing there, and he had made all kinds of beautiful embroidery on this piece of fabric. And I looked at them, and they all looked like beetles and, butterflies. None of them looked like ladybirds. So I started telling him, it's a small little insect. It's red. It has dots. And he looks at me and says, oh, you mean cockroach? It's like, it's far from a cockroach. And then she said, can you please help me source right in India? Because I really need to start my business back in the UK. I have this great idea. So that night she was home having dinner with us. And then she kind of roped me in for 3 months. I said, okay, I'll give you 3 months. You set up your business, and then I'm out, because I don't understand fabrics. I'm terrible. I can't even draw a straight line with a scale and a pen. I can't. I'm terrible at artworks. I don't know all these things, and I'm not going to do it. So she said, okay, 3 months. And then there was no looking back, because we went from one thing to another. They were giving me their orders. They were like, okay, you manufacture and we'll take everything from you, everything that you do. So I started employing karigars, took up a factory, and I learned it. I learned everything about the weaves. I learned everything about the cotton, because it's not rocket science. I was not building a rocket. I was just reinventing the same wheel that Indians have done again and again and again without me having to do anything, right? I was just facilitating the products being made and sent to the UK. And then I realized, why am I making all this only for my clients in UK and the US? Why don't I start making it for the Indian community? And that's how Vida started. So basically, it was a whole concept was to provide themed rooms for kids. So you could come to our shop and say, okay, I want a sea theme for my baby. And we would manufacture everything for that, right from the drapes to the bedding to furniture, everything that you needed for a baby's room.
But there was something quite unique. So there was a great USP, a part of this business, and that was it was all women.
Yes. So that happened 3 years down the lane. Yeah. I decided that I'm going to turn it into a social enterprise for profit, because I believe that making money in whatever you do is very important.
Yeah.
Because it sets a ground level for valuation, right?
Yeah.
It makes you think about value.
Yeah.
It makes you think about money and how much you can and cannot spend. You learn more about what not to do than what to do when you earn profit. Because that's how you earn profits.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't earn profits. And so I decided to turn it into a social enterprise. So tied up with the government to provide employment to women from the rural areas. So we trained them, then we employed them. Their kids could come and play in our factory. We gave them ATM cards so they don't get beaten up at home for the money that they earned. So we did a lot of things. So that was another huge learning for me, because with a little, you can actually make a big difference.
Yeah, the impact is amazing.
Yes, it's amazing. Yeah.
So 45 stores
Yes.
across India. And she has an amazing story because you moved 7 countries.
8 countries.
8 countries. And we were joking about this earlier because I was complaining about moving. And she's like, oh, I've packed a house 18 times. And I'm like, who am I going to complain to? She's like, you can do it.
Yes.
So 18 times you moved. Very resilient. 3 daughters.
3 daughters,
You are now-
1 husband.
1 husband. Yeah.
Mhm.
But you are now in Dubai and you are the queen of mentorship.
No.
How did you get this title? Because, I do my research and I know a few people in the city and this is what I got. You are the woman to know.
So basically, I think I decided when I exited Vivida in 2015, 2016, I decided, actually, like I was telling you, for 2 years, I said, I will not even look at the work side of me. I don't want to work because I started really early.
Yeah.
I had been on magazine covers, I'd given interviews, I'd done panels. I think I'd done everything by that time. So I decided I'm never going to work again and I'm going to stay at home, look after my kids, look after the house, do coffee mornings. And it turns out I suck at it. I'm terrible at it. I don't even know where the coffee mugs are in the house. I mean, I'm really bad at it, right? So I decided that I needed to go back to work. And actually, I didn't decide this time around. My family decided.
Right.
They were like, Mama.
Like, she's a nicer person when she's at work.
Yeah, Mama. They were like, Mama, go back to work. Please, you're terrible at this. So I did go back to work. But this time around, I made the choice of how I wanted to go back to work.
Yeah.
And that's what made the difference. I decided that I'm going to start a give back journey, which is I had done so many things wrong in my career. I said if I could even talk to somebody who's starting afresh about the things that I did wrong, maybe there's a learning there. Not that I'm stopping them from having their experiences, having their failures, because that is so important. You fail, you learn. It's an important part of your journey.
You have to get back up.
And so I said, I'm going to talk to people and tell them that, listen, this is what I did wrong, and I wish I knew and I would do it differently now. Like, in 2008, when we had investors chasing us to invest and sell the business, and I was like, no, I don't want anyone to invest in me. No, I'm fine by myself. Turns out it's such a wrong decision, right? Because so many who started after me are much ahead right now. So, when we talk about investing, it's really important that you find the right partner. It's not just anyone who comes in with the blank You're so right.
checkbook as well,
Yes.
right? It needs to be someone who can add value to your business.
Completely.
And I think that's the most important thing when you are finding a partner to accelerate your business growth.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, so just going back to, so that was one of the things I told the mentors, that many times you actually don't need an investment because you're chasing a valuation. When you start an investment journey, you begin to start a valuation game, right? Because it all depends on what am I valued at today? What am I going to be valued at tomorrow? How will I be valued? So maybe that's not what your business needs. Like many lean and mean businesses, even today after 100 years, don't have investments and they're doing very well.
Yeah.
So that's also a part of the story. So my mentoring journey actually involved all these things. Initially, when I started talking, it was only to women entrepreneurs, right? Because there were women startups and there were very few of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, it's surprising actually. 2017 and 2018, there were actually not as many women entrepreneurs as there are now.
Yeah.
And so when I started talking, it was more about sharing my experiences than mentoring. Then I think slowly the inbound started coming in, asking me, so how would you do this if you were in my place? And it was all pro bono because I loved that. I loved that people were, reaching out to me to tell their stories.
And you can genuinely help.
And I gave it my whole.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the other thing was, it made me relevant again. Because I think when you lose relevance is when you start doubting yourself, and that's when the insecurities set in. So I think just in 2 years of taking a break, I had become irrelevant to myself. And all these inbounds and the questions made me relevant again, because suddenly I knew all these new ideas that were going on, right? I didn't keep up to read about everything that was happening. So when I started learning about the startups that were coming up, for me, it was a journey of relearning. I got back into that phase of, looking into things, learning. And that for me was a great experience, because I was not just giving back, I was taking back so much from these startups too. And that's how I started. And then slowly I got into the mindset that if I can actually help these businesses move forward and grow, why not use whatever little means I have, whatever I can, to invest it back in them, because that gives them the confidence that somebody trusts me, somebody trusts what I'm doing. And I'm also very careful. I'm like, okay, I will invest only if I believe that there is value being created here. And because for commercial businesses, trust me, there's enough and more money. It is when you're trying to add value, trying to get somebody, imagine an entrepreneur in a village, and you're trying to tell her, yes, the pickles and the petticoats and the papads you make is great, but use that same knowledge to, grow your product base, grow your market. It's much more valuable, right? Because she's creating that ecosystem around herself that kind of generates more such entrepreneurship around her. And that's what I started doing. And so it's been a great journey, whether I'm investing, whether I'm mentoring, or whether I'm learning back from the startups. It's been a great journey.
And how did you learn financial literacy?
So I'm a numbers person, actually. So my dad was very clear. Like I said, he's a corporate guy, was in the same company for 38 years of his life. He said that if you want to continue dance, you need to study well. Sounds extremely South-Indian, but that's what it was. So I said, okay, I'm not going to become an engineer or a doctor, but I'm going to become very good at finance and commerce, because I liked math. I liked numbers. So that's what I did.
That's good. So it's such a great skill set.
So numbers is actually...
You have to know your books. You have to know.
So I, of course, because I was running my business all alone, that was one thing that I didn't do. I didn't get a partner on board earlier in my journey. So I had grown so much that I could not take on a partner. So I was alone in that journey, right? So I had to learn a lot. On the 2nd of every month, when you have to pay out the salaries for 600 people, it's a dead weight on your shoulder. It's a huge weight. And you better know where that money is coming from, or how you're going to do that, right? So I got into it by default. I started doing the financial planning, or whether it's budgeting. Of course, I got it wrong. I got it wrong so many times. Like putting an ad in the paper for 2 lakh rupees. Who needs that? You didn't need that. But I did it because, it was one of those things I learned from. You burn your fingers, you learn. And I did that. So it was a great journey of, sitting with the Excel, putting these numbers down. What happens in the next sheet if this changes was all something that I learned. So now I'm comfortable looking at financial models. I can see where I'm not good at Excel. I really am not, but I'm good at reading numbers. So I think that helped that I have a good relationship with numbers.
Well, I just want to highlight another takeaway here. So really understanding financial literacy. So you need to know your books and continuously learning. I think that's really important in this chapter of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to know every single detail of,
you should be
how
able
to file your taxes. You don't need to.
But you should be able to know your business.
When you look at a figure, you should know that, is this coming or has this gone out?
Yes, exactly. That's what you need to know.
Basic stuff.
Debt and credit. That's what you need to know. I wanted to go back to your point, because one of the questions we always get asked is like, how do working moms juggle it all, right? And there's mom guilt all the time. But what I loved about your story is that as much as you wanted to be home with the kids 24/7, it wasn't making you happy, and you weren't the best person, right? So
was terrible.
once you started prioritizing a little bit of me time, which I think is very important, and for you that was going into work and being fulfilled, you could be the best version of yourself at home and for your girls.
It's always a tough call. I think it's become much more simpler now because many sessions we hold, like even you saw, the sessions that we had, there's a baby in the room.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
If you become pregnant and have a baby while you're working, the baby is a part of your working life.
Yes.
I think that has to be a part of who you are, and it will always be. But there's no need to stop. The baby is not asking you to stop working to take care of the baby, because there can always be that division that's made.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I didn't get it. Again, I made a lot of mistakes. My kids were down with chicken pox and I was at work. There is a guilt tripping that you do. I was traveling so much. When I reached an airport, my guilt used to be so high. I bought the most unnecessary gifts for my kids in the airport. Who shops in the airport? I did, because that's where my guilt tripping was so high.
Yeah.
Right? So I did a lot of wrong things, but I do think I did a lot of right things, because today my girls who are 21, 19, 15.
Oh, I can vouch she has the best daughters. Brilliant.
And I think one thing that's drilled
and grounded
in their heads
and humble
is
and so
I've
smart.
always told them, if you want your opinions to matter, you need to be financially independent, because otherwise you're just voicing your opinions.
Yeah.
In life, it's so important for you to know that you're independent.
Yes.
For you to matter, for you to feel relevant. And I think that's drilled into their heads. Poor kids. So
no, they're great.
So
great
I think
daughters.
That's what it is. And you can always have that, of course you need the support. I think we're all lucky that we live in metro cities and well-provided cities where we can actually reach out for help, whether it is daycare centers, whether it is
family, or
we can actually reach out, and you decide what you want to do on your own and what you are okay for others to do. And I was never one of those mothers who said, oh, I need to cook and feed my kids everything. I wasn't. Maybe I had a different mindset, but I managed to do what I did only because I had that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a decision only you can take. And in fact, that's another thing that I always passionately talk about. If you've taken even 10 to 12 years off of your working life, remember that you can get back. You do a few courses today, which is so easily available, Rosamond. You go to Udemy, you pay 2,000 rupees and you can, skill yourself up. Don't think that you're done with it.
Yeah.
Then you start feeling irrelevant when your kids have moved out. You become an empty nester. Go back to it, because you can. And today the world provides you with the opportunities to do that. So do that. And this is one of my passions. Just like I want to create a fund for women to invest, I want to get women who have taken 10 to 12 years gap in their careers to go back into the career system. When you employ a woman who's taken 10 years off, this is actually data that's out there. They give so much back because they're so glad that you've given them the opportunity. They give beyond what they can. You actually get loyalty from them for a much longer
period, yes.
And they do so much more for so little, you would be surprised. So I think there has to be this, game plan to use all that lost talent. Because some of them are so good at what they do, so they should continue to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think women should be punished for having a baby or
taking a break.
Taking a break or whatever it is, yeah. And you're right, it's so nice. We're in a time where courses are available online. You can work from home. Majority of the companies are flexible now. And there's affordable courses now to refresh your skill set.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk about entrepreneurship. We look at small businesses all the time.
I do.
What is the difference between a viable business and really, you always hear this word, following your passion, but what are the rules of thumb for following your passion?
So I think because I categorize myself as an accidental entrepreneur, for me, the passion bit is not so high on the list, because you can become passionate about anything that you're doing. It depends on how much you wed into it, how much you become a part of, right? Because I knew nothing about fabrics. And then I went on to build my business in fabrics and embroideries and threads and colors. I didn't know all these things.
Yeah.
So I think one is, of course, if you're a creative person, then of course the passion becomes a big part of it, because you create with passion. And that's when it becomes really relevant to you and to the person who's, admiring the art that or the creative work that you're doing. But in otherwise, if it could be an idea you came up with because you were in the corporate world, you saw the gap that you can fill. That's not passion, that's a need that you saw.
Yeah.
And so you developed an idea about it, around it, and you made a business out of it. So yes, passion is very important once you've created it. Yeah, because you need to give it your full. I mean, you don't want to get up early in the morning and say, oh my God, I don't want to go to my own created job. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you have to have that passion once you start it, but also have the rigor to pivot or to change when it's not going the right way.
Right.
And when I say the right way, there are many parameters of it. If you are just 1 year old, yes, you're not paying yourself any salary. You're making sure that it is viable. And how viable? Are others liking it? Do others think it's a great idea? Are others buying into your products, buying into your idea? If you haven't even got one customer at the end of 1 year, you are doing something wrong, or you don't know how to market yourself, or you need to change. Set parameters. Say that, okay, in 6 months, I want to have achieved this. In 1 year, I want
you
to
have goals. And that goalpost always has to be moving.
And actually, many startups, you'll be surprised, don't have goals. Because they say, oh, I'm still a startup.
Yeah.
Even at 3 years, they're saying, I'm still a startup. I'm like, what? You were
You were, yeah.
Now you're like a full-on business. If it is not making sense, pivot. Change, because nothing has happened to your brain. Your brain is still there. You just need to rejig how you think within that brain and change what you want to do. And so again, back to this point of relevance, make sure it's relevant for yourself, relevant for your customers, and relevant for the target audience for whom you say you've created this business. Because many times, you hear this, oh, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea only if others think that it's a great idea too.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to know that passion is one thing, but actually making sure it's as valuable and as relevant is a more important parameter in the journey of your business. So keep that in mind when you have a startup.
And when you're starting a business, so what is the checklist? So someone has a great idea. What is the checklist before they start investing and putting money in?
Yeah, so I think if in a business, when you want to draw up a checklist to see if it's going the way you want it to, one of the top things that would come up for me personally is that you are getting revenues. Because that's immediately business. What is business? Business is trade.
Yeah.
You give something, you get something. That's business. It's not a relationship that, your intangible love is being passed around between two individuals. Business is something where there is a tangible exchange of things. So when you call it a business, it better be a business that is actually making revenues. You can set your deadline, right? You can say, okay, 6 months, I'm not going to have any revenues. Okay, 1 year, I'm not going to have revenues. Then what?
Yeah.
Then you need to have that revenue coming in. And the second thing that really matters is to know if the region where you are operating that business actually needs it, right?
Yeah.
Many times you've seen somebody else doing it. So you say, oh my God, even I want to do that. And that happens many times with, say, selling clothes, fashionable clothes, or selling accessories. She's doing so well, so I'm going to do it too.
Right.
When you become a copycat business, it's very difficult to make it work. So make sure that the idea you've come up with, the business you're doing is relevant for the region or the area where you want to start.
I also have to have a market study. You need to know who your competitors are in the space. You need to know what, the entry to the market.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other top things is a team, right? You can't do everything on your own. I know you can't afford it, but at least reach out and tell a friend maybe who has a skill set, okay, you're in a job, don't leave that job, but give me 1 hour now and then to help me with this. Reach out for help, because many times we, especially women, have this thing that they don't reach out. They don't know how to delegate. First of all, we're the worst delegators in the world. We don't delegate, right? It's the same thing comes down to not asking. We don't want to I don't want to tell them that I'm doing something. why not talk about it and get a close group of friends and say, listen, this is what I'm doing. Can you give me 1 hour of your skill? I can't pay you now, but I promise you I'll make good for it when I can. And have these barter systems. Say that for you, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. Have it. It's an open relationship. It's fine to have these barter systems. So team becomes very important. So when
team, and I think networking is so important as well.
So
you have,
important.
as an entrepreneur, you have to be out there.
Absolutely.
Meeting people. And out of the 100 people you meet, you might just meet 1 or 2
Yes.
that might spark an idea or help you, or you learn a skill set that you
and
didn't
look
know
at
that was
myself,
there.
Right? I had no idea of starting a fabric or a factory business. I bumped into Vanessa, and she kind of made me a part of her journey. And that's what it is. But you're so right. Talk to people. Go and make time to attend sessions, because that's where you meet peers. That's where you realize that, oh God, I'm doing this all wrong. This is not how I'm supposed to be doing this. Today, there is a tool to answer my emails. Today, there's a tool that will make my payment gateway so much more easier by just having it. For that, you need to network.
Yeah.
For that, you need to talk to people. And then the fourth important thing I suggest is you read. You read and you skill up. You learn. Morning cup of tea with something that you want to read. Make it a habit. It can be something as irrelevant as reading about some company that went bust. I love reading about that because there's so much of learning
from there,
in the company that went bust.
Yeah.
Because what did they do wrong? That is so much more of a learning than how I got lucky. I mean, what is a learning in getting lucky? I don't know how you got lucky. I mean, you were just in the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
I have no learning from there, but if you say that I'm a failed entrepreneur, I have so much to learn from you.
Yeah.
And I think also that builds also the resilience to fail and restart again. That's why the US is a great place, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of bandwidth for people who fail.
Yeah.
Whereas the region that you and I are in, or even the traditional communities around, there's very less bandwidth for failure.
Yeah.
Like you're so scared that, oh, my community is going to tell me that you're a failure.
Yeah.
There's so much of fear
that definitely
of
is not in America. In America is really about growth. Anyone can rise, regardless of your nationality or background.
Yes.
It is, it's the
And
American
they will ask
dream.
you, have you failed?
Yeah, they want to
They
know.
want you to have failed.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, that the traditional communities we come
Yeah.
from, it's not. I don't think it's community. It's us who think that, they're going to...
Well, I honestly think we put this conditioning on ourselves, which is crazy. Like, we're almost putting the glass ceiling on us and these boundaries around us, when
Absolutely.
you really have to just ignore the noise and keep looking forward. Funny, one of the things that I always say, and I actually changed how I spent my time. So like, if I'm getting ready to film and I know my makeup's going to take literally like 30 minutes or 25 minutes between hair and makeup, I used to blast music, get me in the zone and all of that. Now I listen to a podcast. And so it's a 30-minute podcast, 45-minute podcast. And I just feel like it's 30 minutes of just knowledge, whether it's about the news, whether it's about anything from self-help to business, listening to, an interview, whether it's Jay Shetty, any of these podcasts. I'm constantly learning, because I'm like, that is 30 minutes that I'm not wasting.
Yeah. And also,
I've had to change, like, it's equivalent to whether it's reading or any of
anything that gives you, even that thing where you listen to a bad podcast, right? And say, how stupid was that? Because that helps you create an opinion.
Yeah.
Remember that many times we've been conditioned not to have opinion. To have opinions is a very big part of who you are.
Yeah.
And develop that. Look at bad podcasts, read bad stuff and say that, oh my God, that's so abnormal. Seriously. I mean, you know that news that we've just been reading about this lady who got married to herself, right? I mean, in Rajasthan,
Okay.
She got married to herself. She said, I don't need anyone. I want to get married to myself. And she did, right? And if I had not read about it, I wouldn't even have thought about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's all that. It's okay. And then you learn about trending.
Yeah.
It's just so much of information out there. And we're lucky to have the choice we're lucky to have podcasts and audiobooks
Books
and magazines and newspapers. You can
Yeah.
tell you what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right? I mean, it's like,
What are some tips you're telling your girls? I met one of your daughters,
My
who's
daughters.
studying at a very prominent American university. Super nice and smart and kind and humble. And she was just in awe of you. And I thought that was so special. I mean, she was sitting, I was speaking at your event actually last week, and she was sitting front row, and she was just in awe of you. And it was so nice to see that, and have a role model like you, not only as a mom, but truly as a role model. What are some tips, or what do you tell your girls?
It's great that, you're saying that to me, because I don't feel like that. Yeah, so I think, going back to what I tell my kids, of course, I tell them a lot of things, but one of the things I always say is make sure your opinions matter, and your opinions can matter only if you're financially independent. I don't think we are the kind of family who has, generations of wealth to give them and pass on. And no, I think the legacy that we are giving them or passing on is that of education, right? So we have never not given them something to learn from or educate themselves with. And that I pride myself about. And I think it's great if they can take that, gold mine of education and do something with it. Even if you don't do exactly what you studied, make something with it, because you have the knowledge. You have today the choices in the world that you can pick.
Yeah.
You can choose to do anything, and there is a platform for it. So make sure you do something with it always. And that's something that I tell them all the time. And the other thing I harp about is no McDonald's, no Pizza Hut. Poor kids have never had Coke in their life, I think. And these things matter, and I actually really force them to not eat these things. And I think either they'll go into binge eating this or not eat this at all.
So as they're in university, they're going to discover McDonald's.
But yeah, they will have to make their choices. And the other thing I'm actually mean about is if one of them comes to me and says that I'm sick or I'm hurt and I'm like paining here and there, and I'll be like, it'll go away inside, don't worry about it. I don't.
You have a home remedy.
I don't fuss too much on things that are wrong medically, because I want them to be strong about finding their own, ways to heal the body.
Yeah.
And if you add stress and worry to it, it's never going to happen. And this is something I learned from my mom. I'd come back home after playing on the street with blood pouring on my leg, and she'd be like, go have a bath and come out, So I like that, because that made me strong in so many ways. And I do that with them. And I must add here, I'm so grateful to my husband, because he's one of those dads who set a very high benchmark to my kids in the partner that they will look for or have.
That's amazing.
Oh my God. And
I love that. Oh my God. Can you stop and just, that's so sweet. Because I think, kids subconsciously see the roles that their parents play.
Totally.
And it really goes into later life. So if you're not a great example of a partnership, that's what your kids are absorbing, and they think, that's what a relationship is like. So yeah, you have to be the best example of parents and actual partners, life partners.
Yeah, and I think he's just set the benchmark so high for it. I mean, they call him many times before they call me. And I love those benchmarks, especially in my girls.
Yeah.
I like that, because they're going to be thinking about all these things. And he tells them things like, make sure whoever you find loves you for who you are, makes you laugh, and has the same 3 value systems, the top value systems that you have.
Yeah.
It should match.
Yeah.
And he gives them all these tips about how to be the best partner.
Aww.
And I think I love it. I love that he set these benchmarks, and it's a great thing for my girls to see that.
Yes.
Because also, you can't be a solo player in things that you do, right? I mean, I was able to work. I was able to do all the business because I had the backing.
Yeah.
Whether it is my husband, my parents, my in-laws, they all actually gave me the courage to do what I was. And it was because I demanded it also. I would turn back and say, listen, I need help here. And that helped.
You have to ask.
Yeah, you have to
Because
ask.
the only thing that can happen is really they say no.
They know.
But if you
Then
don't
find
ask,
another, if you don't ask, oh, he didn't realize that I wanted this.
Yeah.
How? He doesn't live in my head, just like I don't live in
Yeah.
my head. So you need to talk about it. And this is another thing I learned, that you ask. And like you said, the maximum thing they'll say is, no.
Yeah.
Okay. You
I
move on
love
to
that.
another person and get the help from somewhere. But talk about it and it helps. Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot of people that are lucky to have you in their life, not only your family, but all these mentorees. And I'm lucky to call you my friend. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
So we're so lucky we get to do this show because of Indigo Living. And their motto is living beautifully. What does it mean to you?
Ooh, that's deep. And I'm not a deep person. Like, I don't spend hours thinking about what I want. No, but I can answer that actually in a very nice way. I mean, I love beautiful stuff, of course. But like you said, I have moved 17 homes. And for me, it's always been a way of not getting attached to material stuff. That's been a big value system for both of us. And we do that as a family. That's why we are able to move. Like, I give away half the stuff from the previous home and move to a new one. And of course, thank God there are Indigo Living kind of spaces for me to populate
easy shop
my, easy to shop. They come, they set it up. So we don't attach ourselves to material stuff. I think that's one of the reasons that our life has been beautiful, because we keep bringing new things into our life.
Do you think maybe it's this idea of just keeping things simple. And decluttered, and they had space to think and look around.
Yes, and we don't have heavy furniture, heirloom furniture. I don't think our kids are even going to inherit that.
Yeah.
I don't think they want that also. So
They can shop at Indigo.
yeah, they can shop and they can make their own beautiful stuff. So yeah, that has been a big help, because to change yourself according to the place you're moving to has been a big point of ease for us, because I haven't been attached as a person who mainly does the housing and thing. I haven't been materially attached, and I think this detachment from material stuff, especially when you're in a material place like Dubai, is very important. I feel I never think that, oh, if I don't have what she's wearing or what she's carrying, what somebody is driving, if I don't have that at all, I don't even see it, sometimes I'm so blind to these things, and that helps. I think that's what makes it beautiful, because I see the beauty of it, but not the feeling behind it. And I love that. And also the other thing that makes our life beautiful, Rosamond, is that we believe in experiences. We travel to eat, we travel to see things, we travel to do homestays in villages. We love experiences. I mean, I think the last money or last penny that we earn, we spend on experiences. And that makes it naturally beautiful.
Yeah.
Because
And you're creating memories and moments with your kids and family and your partner.
Yeah, of course, they hate it that I'm always taking pictures, but I always say, you will not remember it when I'm dead and gone. So this is what I'm going to leave you, because they say we don't want a house, we live in Airbnbs. We'll never learn how to drive because we'll Uber.
Right, yeah.
That's the generation that we are seeing coming up. So what is the use of, getting stuck onto something? When you leave that, you liberate yourself. And that's what makes it so beautiful. And you have so many beautiful things to, accumulate for a short span of time, move on, because the trends change and you change.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
I love that. I'm going to ask you one more question just before we go, because you are. I know I have so much to ask.
I talk too
you.
much.
No, I have so much to ask you, and I'm trying to be really sensitive on time. So I'm really grateful you're here. But you're an angel investor. How do we speak to women about investing? Because we can easily swipe the credit card for a handbag for the latest trend. And I'm guilty of it too, right? Like if I want something, I would think twice before signing a check over into a business, right? Because there's no tangible item right away that I'm getting. So how are we speaking to women to invest, secure their future for financial stability going forward. When we look at stats right now, I mean, people are getting married later. They are thinking twice about having families. The families are getting smaller. There's two partners earning an income in a business or in a partnership. Financial stability and security is so important for women. So how should we start that conversation?
So I have started, thinking about this very deeply because I feel that with all these reports that are coming up, right, that just less than 2% of women startups and women entrepreneurs get funding, get investments, get funded, whereas 98% of the men, seem to do it with ease. And so I started thinking about it, and I realized one of the big deterrents is exactly what you said. Not enough women are investing in women. Let alone women, they're not even investing. They're not investing because they feel that they're not cut out for it. And like you said, they'll go and spend big amounts on, other stuff, but they doubt their own ability to invest. And that's the mindset change that has to come. And how did it come with me? Again, it was easy for me because I'd run a business maybe, but also because I started seeing an opportunity of growing my wealth substantially by picking the right place to invest in. I didn't go and invest myself initially. I actually tied up with an angel network. What happens when you tie up with an angel network is that you start going to these pitch sessions where startups come and pitch. You're there in the audience. You're listening to the questions that people who are, seasoned investors are asking. You kind of think, oh yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I saw the pitch deck. It looks so beautiful that I'm here to listen to the pitch. But I never thought of that. I didn't think that it's not scalable. You start learning. Start with investing $1,000. You would be surprised how far even that goes in many communities. So start with join angel networks, start with investing. Do small courses about how to look at financial statements. It's very simple. You know very clearly where this company is headed. Make small investments. And then you grow and you learn. It's just like entering a stock market today. You enter a stock market with even 10,000 rupees or, here 1,000 dirhams, and you either grow or you lose, but that's okay because that 1,000 dirhams is not going to break your home. I mean, it's not that you're not going to have food to eat. Start small with something that you're not going to miss out on, right? And build it up. Make it a point to spend 5 to 10 minutes on that investment of yours. Just like you'd spend if you bought a 20,000 dirham bag, you would spend time to make sure you put it in a cover. You maintain it, you clean it, make sure you've removed all your lipsticks and your cosmetics from it so it does not, leak in the purse. Just that. So it takes 5 minutes, right? So do the same with your investment. And that's how you grow it. But it's not going to happen easily because there's too much of a mindset to change. And that's why I want to start a fund where the focus is going to be more on women becoming investors than the startups being women. And that is the mindset change that needs to happen. And you, my God, my dear, you will do very, very well with it because you already have a sense for it. You know intrinsically what works and what doesn't. Just in your expertise, in your field of expertise, start and you will do wonders with it.
So you heard it from the boss right here. We're going to be a little bit more careful with our money and watch it grow. So invest carefully.
Yes, invest. Yes.
Thank you for your time. We're so grateful to have you here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and your inspiring story. We loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think my final statement would be don't say no because you doubt yourself. Say no because it makes sense to say no. Otherwise, go with it.
Love that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my God, this has been a privilege.
Thank you. And thank you for watching each week. It is such an honor to share inspiring stories from women across the region. Please follow us on Indigo Living on Instagram and of course YouTube for more episodes. See you next week.